Hey guys, what is up? It's your girl, Grace Story, and I am back with a whole new podcast episode. Today we are reading Reddit stories that have the craziest fiancé drama. Like, guys, these people are months from walking down the aisle and they need to get it together. That's all I'm gonna say. There's plenty of drama, there's lots of trouble in paradise, and as a nosy bystander, I like hearing about it. You guys probably do too, because you're here. So, before we jump in, don't forget to comment, like, subscribe, follow, whatever the term is for any engagement on whatever platform you're currently listening or watching on. Takes point 0.2 seconds, is totally free, and like beyond means the world to me. I'm not even kidding. I could cry right here and right now. Like, I see every single one of you. I appreciate every single one of you. And if you like story times just like these, definitely follow because there's more where that came from. All right, without further ado, let's go ahead and jump on into today's episode. I'm Grace Story, and you're listening to That Girl the Podcast. Grab a beverage of choice and settle in, because the new episode is starting now. So, as per usual, all of these stories are from Best Redditor updates, so there is an update or some sort of conclusion. So don't worry, you don't have to lose sleep at night wondering how things ended up, because we got all the tea here. Am I the a-hole for not asking my girlfriend's father for permission to marry her? New 3-year final update. So I feel like the normal situation I read about is the opposite situation, but I personally feel I'm in the right here. I, 30 male, have been dating my girlfriend, 29 female, for 4 years now, and things have all in all been pretty good. We both don't see eye to eye politically on many things with her father, but still visit him and her mother fairly frequently around the holidays. He's friendly enough to know to not bring up politics around the both of us because we don't agree. But I digress. I've talked about proposing to my girlfriend over the past couple of months and about what she wants, etc. And she mentioned she wanted me to ask her dad for permission. I was kind of taken aback by this. It isn't a normal thing my girlfriend would say. So I asked why, and she said it's because it's something she would like me to do. Her sister's husband did it, and some wedding funding from him would likely be contingent on me doing this. I came back with that I wouldn't be asking another person for permission to marry her. It's an extremely outdated tradition for one, and I'm a 30-year-old person. I can do what I want to do with someone I love. I don't need anyone else's permissions. She got mad and said I just needed to do it because it's a small thing to ask for, and she wants some of the money to have a few more things at our wedding that we won't be able to afford without it. I'm continuing to stand my ground about not asking for this. Am I the a-hole? I have a lot of thoughts about this. And one thing I want to say before I jump into my thoughts is if you don't agree, totally fine. All I ask is that if you comment, you keep it respectful. I love hearing everybody's different opinions, everybody's different perspectives. I'm just going off of like my experience and what I know from relationships and friendships and, my personal experience. We're all going to have different ones. So, in my opinion, I think that you have a relationship with the dad. You said he's friendly enough. So it doesn't sound like there may be like unspoken tension, but it doesn't sound like there's straight tension. She's trying to be strategic about it and saying, hey, like, we could get money out of this. It doesn't sound like she's like 100% down, which I don't necessarily agree with. I think that if you don't respect someone or don't like someone, or you aren't like a friend of theirs, like if you have ulterior motives and it's only to get money out of them, maybe don't. Like, I don't like that, but again, whatever you got to do. Sometimes people like to do that, and whatever. At the end of the day, that's your decision. But I think that when it comes to asking the father for permission, a lot of that comes down to what the bride wants because it's her father. And like, it's not going to kill anything to ask him. If he says no, that would open up a new can of worms, but she's not even like getting to that. She's just asking you to ask him and then go from there. I feel like marriage and relationships is a lot of compromise, and I'm not seeing any compromise on any side. I personally think that you should just suck it up and do it. But then again, like, she wouldn't be compromising at all, so I get it. But yeah, I personally think you should just do it. I feel like it's not that big of a deal. It's her dad, so it's kind of like her decision. Like, for example, what if she said, I want to do a daddy-daughter, like, dance at the wedding, and you said, no, that's an outdated tradition. That would be wrong, right? Everybody would be like, well, that's her choice. What if you said, I want to do a mother-son dance, and she said, ew, that's an outdated tradition. Like, ew, mother-son, have you not seen all the TikToks about that? That's so outdated. Like, you would get offended and you would be like, hey, this is my wedding too. So I feel like looking at it from her point of view, like I can see why she's upset because all you have to do is ask. And it's like at the end of the day, that's one of those things that I feel like is like 70-30, where it's the bride is 70% of that decision. But again, it could go either way. Let's read the relevant comments. I'd say you're the a-hole. I can completely understand it being outdated, and I can understand if you end up feeling embarrassed or something by doing it, but she's asking this of you. Being married means that sometimes you compromise on your own comfort to make the other one beyond happy. Also, it's not a bad thing to have financial help towards the wedding, and if asking permission is a way to do that, it's pretty easy. I'll also point out that my husband also contacted my father, but it wasn't, do I have your blessing to marry your daughter? And more, hey, I love your daughter so much, I'm going to ask to marry her. It was just more of letting him know of his plans, you know? Exactly. I feel like that's more of what people are doing in 2026. And whatever traditions you want to uphold when it comes to like stuff like this that's not really harmful, go off. Like if you want to ask, if you want to tell, whatever you guys as a couple decide on. But the whole compromising, me and Reddit were on the same wavelength there. OOP did respond and say, I think that this is the route I'll propose with my girlfriend. I just don't like the asking permission part. So like you said, if I phrase it as more about I'm doing this and want to let you know because I respect you, I think that'll make both sides happy. Thanks for the suggestion. I agree. I think that's a really good compromise. A couple people told them to ask for like the father's blessing rather than permission. And they responded and said, I suggested this with asking for both parents and was told that her father will likely want to speak with me alone on it and won't include the mother if I try to ask with both of them. Again, I don't mind telling them I'm going to do this, but the blatant, you have to ask me and only me, is what's really off-putting for this. This makes me think about, are you good with being okay with these in-laws for the rest of your life? Because you're getting married. Like, these are going to be your in-laws forever. And it sounds like you're good at keeping them at arm's length, but what about when you have kids, if you choose to do that? What about, like, when you need their help? What if, God forbid, somebody gets sick and, like, you all are leaning on each other? You're going to have to interact with them, sometimes at a length that you may not want. And she is not her parents' beliefs. Like, she can believe totally different things than them, so don't blame her for that, not that you are. But at the same time, you have to be tolerant of their beliefs to a certain degree because you're gonna be around them. So it sounds like you're not tolerant of his beliefs, which is okay, but then maybe it's not a good fit. I don't know. And that like, this is such a silly thing to break up over, but it just sounds like there's an underlying lack of respect there that maybe stems from the belief system that he has. Like, I don't know. I um I don't know. I feel like there's something going on. So another user commented, do you think her father would use this as an opportunity to lord it over you? Is he the type of person who would take advantage of the situation to try and get you to humble yourself for him? And OOP said he won't lord it over me, but it's just his personality to be the overprotective father. The typical I own a pew pew, so treat her right thing was said when I first met him, so it's always been this way. You'd always just laugh that off, maybe. I don't know. Let's go on to update 1. This is 6 weeks later. Hi, y'all. After reading a lot of the responses in the original thread, I decided to ask for my girlfriend's parents' blessing. I told her I was going to do it, and she was very happy. We were going to visit about 2 weeks after I posted the thread, and I figured it would be a good opportunity to ask. So my fiancé went for a run one morning, and I was lounging around talking with her parents when I said I'd like to talk to them about something. They both kind of smiled like they knew what I was going to say, and her dad says, let's go talk in the garage. So him and I go out there, and I phrase it like some people told me to. I want to marry your daughter, and I'm letting you know that I plan to propose because I love her. I also want to get your blessing because I respect you and your wife. He was pleased with the answer and smiled and gave his approval for me to propose. See, was that so hard? All I needed, the proposal went great about a month later, romantic and just like I had planned. My fiance loved it. So this past Sunday, we were discussing venues and the ceremony, and my fiance casually said, well, Dad wants us to get married in this church, so we'll be doing it here. Oh. Yikes. Now I'm not religious and I wouldn't mind getting married in a church, but again, why does his opinion matter for our wedding? So I asked, anything else your dad wants for our wedding? And then said we also need to stay in separate rooms the night before our wedding too, per her father. Hilarious since we've been living together for almost 2 years. This led to a massive argument about the wedding, the role of her dad in her life. I told her that up until a couple of months ago, it seemed like she couldn't have cared less about what her dad thought. But would it stop with the wedding? Would it continue on if we had children? Her excuse was that she was ruining her dream wedding and it was contingent on appeasing her father. She didn't understand where I couldn't compromise and get her the extra cash to get her the wedding she had always dreamed of. So I told her, I'm not ready to get married if this is the stance you're going to take with your father, and that did not go over well. The yelling started and things started being thrown at me. Oh, okay, that's not good. So I left. I called my buddy and went to his place. He gladly let me come over. I've got tons of missed calls from her, some texts ranging from I miss you, let's talk it out, to you're an blank trying to separate me from my family. I just honestly don't know where this behavior is coming from. It's like my fiance has been taken over by some bridezilla that only cares about having a perfect wedding. I'm just taking time to think about everything and what I'll do next. I'll maybe update again after this, but for now, things aren't looking too great for the future of our relationship. Just trying to keep my head above water. Yeah, see, this is taking it too far. Like, I think that the small little tradition of asking him was totally reasonable, but him controlling their wedding, I don't know if it's contingent on like, oh, if you don't do this, then I'm not gonna pay for it, or if like she's doing it because she feels like she needs to have his approval. Either way, it's not healthy. Like, I agree, like if you give her an inch and she takes a mile, like when is it gonna end? I also questions about like the church. So I grew up Christian, and a lot of times, if you choose to get married in the church, I believe the venue is free, but you have to go to premarital counseling at the church. You have to both be members of the church. And this isn't every single church. This is just like in general. Which means you have to be baptized and be like a believer, or maybe not baptized, but just a member. Again, depends on the church and how strict they are and what denomination they are, whatever. But that's a lot to ask of someone who isn't religious. I and I feel like then you're asking them to compromise on their identity. If it was just getting married in a church and you didn't mind it, that's fine. I think that you're getting a little upset that like, I guess ask yourself, if she hadn't have said, "My dad thinks," would you have wanted to get married in a church? Like if she have just said, "I think we should get married in the church," would you be okay with that? Because that answers your question of like, is it because the dad said so, or is it because I genuinely don't feel comfortable doing that? At the same time, she should be proposing this because she wants to. Is her dream wedding because she wants to get married in a church, or is her dream wedding only making her dad happy? And if her dad's not happy, then it's not her dream wedding. So these are not like necessarily opinions or answers. I think these are just questions that I would ask to try and get to the bottom of it, because it's still salvageable to a certain degree. But I think there definitely needs to be more boundaries with your dad or her dad, and you need to get to the bottom of like, where is this coming from? Let's read some relevant comments though. This was on the Best of Redditor update comments. It is a heavily downvoted commenter. This guy's a control freak. All the things his fiance is suggesting are totally normal things that people do. I'm going to pause. People do in their religion, or if they align with that tradition. They are normal things for them. That doesn't mean they're normal things for everybody. Okay, I'm going to continue reading now. Having a conversation, not even asking permission per se, just having a conversation and getting their blessing with your intended's parents before proposing is totally normal and common. Getting married in a family's church, even if you aren't especially religious, is normal. Most people spend the night before their wedding apart. All totally normal things. All tradition. And I think that people get that confused. I live in the Bible Belt, so a lot of this is very, very common. But I also acknowledge that it's traditional for certain religions, specifically Christianity. Do people do it who aren't Christian? Absolutely. People adopt the tradition. But a lot of this really originated from Christianity, as well as like having a household where it's like the man takes care of the house, like patriarchy at its finest. Like there is no say for women. Like I can see both sides. If you choose not to go through with those traditions, go off. It's a conversation you and your fiance should have long before you get engaged, because you should know each other's like values way before and just have an understanding, like, that's not the type of thing they would do, but, like, also, I don't know, understand their relationship with their parents enough to know if that influences them. But at the same time, like, this person who's commenting isn't acknowledging that other traditions exist or other experiences exist, and that's pissing me off. But let's keep reading it. These are pretty tame requests from someone who is funding the wedding, and all are things this guy would probably be doing anyway. The student wants to get into a eggplant measuring contest with his future father-in-law and is pissed that his fiance isn't deferring to him. I don't think that's true. I think that it's one of those, like, you can see things coming over the horizon, like, give them an inch and they take a mile. Also, I don't I just don't like that. Like, do I think that we'll read OOP's response. OP here, we would have been funding 80% of the wedding. The extra 20% or so were extras that my father-in-law said he would cover, but only if we fulfilled certain requests. I don't mind doing things that she wants, but I want to say in these things too, especially since we will be paying for a majority of it. This is why in today's day and age where things are so divided when it comes to, like, traditions and politics and having a say, and there's way more independence in today's couples than there were maybe like 50 years ago. Like, your parents did have a massive say. So for these people who are now funding these weddings, a lot of them, their parents had a huge say in their wedding. And yeah, we can acknowledge that that was their experience. But again, like, it's a great thing that we are taking this on our shoulders and we are making it our wedding, and it's not what our parents always dreamed of but never got because their parents wanted something else. Like, things have changed, and I would be very, very careful if you are getting married anytime in the future, um, about who you accept money from. Even if you have to save an extra year or 2 before you get married, it's worth it to have your own wedding. I know I'm not married, never been married, but I've seen enough in my life. I've also read enough stories to know that if you're not 100% aligned with who you're receiving money from and what they want, definitely maybe don't accept money. So someone did ask, so here's another update. This is 2 months after the first update. Hey all, been getting quite a few messages asking me how things are going, so I figured I'd give y'all a quick update. 1, the wedding is not happening. 2, we broke up. I just moved into a new place after staying with a friend for a bit, and I'm just figuring out life, just working and staying busy with my golf league. My ex and I tried to make it work for a little while after my update, and I think we both realized that after what had transpired, it just wasn't going to work. So that's what I got for you. Not that exciting, but hey, honestly, life is pretty boring most of the time, unlike what most people on Reddit would like you to believe. I'm sorry about that, dude, and that sucks big time, but I do think that you're saving yourself a lot of heartbreak in the long run. If she was gonna let her father take a front seat in this, again, like, maybe she wasn't, and those were the only demands. Like, I'm just assuming that this was only the beginning. If that's the case, then I don't think this is a good fit. Like, I feel like, okay, so I am not, like, close with my family. I'm close with them, but it's not like I go to family dinner every single Monday and, like, they have an impact on every single decision. I have to call them before I make a decision. Like, I'm very independent even though I have a good relationship with most of my family and I love them. For me, when I was looking for a partner, it was very important that they also were that way because I knew that if they were super close with their family and their family had a say in everything that we did and, like, whatever, and it was always gonna feel like me and their family and not just me and him as a partnership, I knew that I was not okay with that. I have friends who maybe don't have great home relationships and they want families that are really, really close because they want a family unit to be a part of. All that to say, like, he has great relationship with his family, I have a great relationship with my family, but we're both independent, and that is something that was very important to me, and I think that moving forward, OP should definitely consider that, like, what type of family he wants to marry into. A lot of people just think like, "Well, I don't want a horrible mother-in-law," and that's it, but you should really consider the dynamics of the family that you're marrying into because, like, it does build up over time. Like, imagine you're making decisions like buying a house and all of the even, like, the mundane things about life, like, should we buy a dishwasher? Should we get a new car? Should we freaking put a new I just redid my sidewalk. Like, should we redo the sidewalk right now or later? Those are all things that some people have to consult the family about. Or even if they just bring it up at family dinner, their family may have an opinion that's like, you guys should wait. Or maybe you shouldn't do that right now. Or, guys, like, you don't have the money for that. And I would hope there would be, like, more respect where they can speak candidly but respectfully. But if you're not okay with that type of dynamic, like my family is very, very blunt. I love them to death, but I often don't tell them things until after I've done them because I know that they'll be like stressed. And it's coming from a kind place. Like 100%. When I bought my car, didn't tell anybody. And then after I was like, guys, I got my dream car. And they're like, even some of them were like, maybe that was a horrible financial decision, but it's like, hey, it's done now. You can't talk me out of it. Because I knew that even though they care about me and they just want me to not put myself in a bad financial position, if I would have told them before, it would have been like well, you shouldn't do that. Why would you do that? That's a stupid financial decision. And it's like, I don't want your opinion. I'm not asking for your opinion. I'm going to do it either way. So I think that it's important to understand those type of dynamics when you're looking for a partner. I'm talking a lot this episode. Sorry if you just wanted to hear the stories. All of them will be linked down below, as well as I'm gonna have chapters. Can you comment below if it's the chapters are showing? I think I'm doing them right. No one's commented asking for chapters in a long time, but I don't know. I need you guys to like make sure it's showing on your end because it's like a certain process you have to do and then you just kind of have to hope it works, and I don't know. So let me know if the chapters are showing. But yeah, I think that that's why it's important to not get married super quick. Now, for some people, it works. My parents got married, they got engaged 6 months into dating, and they were married for 20 years before they got a divorce. Is it forever? No. But did it work for a while? Yeah. I mean, I don't know if you know who Jason Marie Smith or like Chelsea Jade Curtis are. I love them. They're the What We Said podcast. They got married after like 6 months and they're so in love. Like they have kids, like they love it. Obviously, there are exceptions to the rule, but as a girly who likes to err on the side of I'm very anxious and I want to make sure things are solid before I just like risk when it comes to things like marriage, I wouldn't suggest getting married before at least 2.5 years because then you get to really know family, you get to really know your partner, you've gone through pretty much everything, the honeymoon phase is over. But whatever, I'm rambling, so we're gonna read another update from 2 months after this previous one. Hey everybody, kind of forgot about this account to be honest. I was thinking about this the other day and logged in and had a couple people asking how I was doing. To be honest, not much has changed. I think last I left you, I had just moved into a new place and my ex and I had separated and had called off the wedding. For about 4 months or so, I didn't have contact with her. We just figured it would be best to go our separate ways. I just buried myself in my work and kept trying to keep my mind off of her. But out of the blue, I got a message from her just asking how I was doing. We ended up texting for a bit over the next couple of days, and we ended up deciding we needed to meet up for a quick round of drinks to get some closure. Drinks went well, and we continued to text maybe once every 2 weeks or so. One thing led to another, and a random night I got a text from her asking to come over to her new place. So I did. We've kept this arrangement going for a while. No plans on getting back together at all, but it's nice to feel like a normal person every 2 to 3 weeks. Ooh, you're playing with fire, buddy. So that's really it. Work is good, and I'm thinking about potentially getting back out into the dating world soon. I'll have to end the arrangement with my ex if so, but I think she'll be understanding. Anyways, appreciate you all asking about me. See, as a woman who knows other women, again, everything I say is a generalization based off of what typically happens for whatever. Like, this isn't every woman, is all I'm gonna say. When you are friends with benefits, there are times when that's fine. But when there's a relationship in the past and there were feelings in the past, she might have some hope that you're going to get back together. No matter how many times you say you're not, no matter how many times she says no, there may be some hope there. So I would end that if you have no intentions, because that's just going to get super messy. And her dad, who had literally said he has a pew pew if you ever break her heart, I'd watch out. Top comment, did she ever give any excuse for her behavior back then? Seems kind of wild to go from happy in love to engaged to broken up in such a short amount of time. OOP said, that's a fair question. I didn't get too deep into that. It basically just came down to her wanting the extra cash for the wedding. She was just so hell-bent on having the perfect wedding and was willing to do anything to get that. She realizes she was wrong now, or at least she says she does. My hesitation is obviously still there because I don't know if she was truthful or not. So, there is one final update from 3 years later. So this was on April 11th, 2026. What's up, everyone? I figured I'd give an update for your enjoyment, seeing as it's the weekend. Someone sent me a post from Best of Redditor Updates that outlined this whole saga, and it was pretty interesting reading all the comments. For those that thought I was dumb enough to not be using protection when seeing my ex, come on now. I'm dumb, but I'm not that dumb. Hey, accidents still happen. I know a lot of friends that have IUD babies. I'm just saying. For those of you that thought I was dumb enough to think that my ex wouldn't have an issue going back into the dating world eventually, great call by the haters. You were correct. See? I clocked that. About 6 months after my previous update, I decided to officially end it with my ex because I just had felt the relationship had run its course. We hadn't seen each other for about 2 months at that point, so I figured it was kind of a natural stopping point. Wait, so did you reach out to her at that 2 month and be like, hey, I know we haven't talked in 2 months, but I just want to... Yeah, sometimes you just gotta let sleeping dogs lie. If you did reach out. I would just... Oh. If she were to reach out eventually, be like, hey, I thought this was over, but... maybe, I wouldn't have initiated that conversation. Well, that breakup text turned into about 100 missed calls and 20 extremely angry voicemails, including one where I was threatened with being thrown things out again, so all in all, that just reinforced my decision. Other than that, things have been good. I've just been working and playing golf when the weather is decent. No plans to get into a relationship anytime soon, which is honestly fine by me. I hope y'all have a wonderful weekend. That's a roller coaster. This top Best of Redditor comment really sums it up. It says, people get way too focused on their dream wedding. They end up forgetting that they need to be able to have a good marriage afterwards. This is so true. I feel like getting married in today's culture where it's become so extravagant and a lot of it is on you to fund can be so stressful. And it's a huge test for your marriage because it's like a lot of people don't survive because I think that generally the wedding is way more important to the bride, so the bride may want something super extravagant. Like, there's always the example of the ice swan, like that big swan ice sculpture. Like, nobody needs that. But maybe your bride feels like she has to have it. I know there's things for my wedding that other people will be like, why do you want that? That's dumb. Nobody needs that. But then the husband or the fiance has to turn around and say, hey, we don't need that. And he has to be the one to fix it and compromise, and she has to be willing to compromise. And maybe she's had her dream wedding Pinterest board for 10 years, and this is like something that she's envisioned so deeply in 10 years, and everybody's stubborn. So you really have to overcome that, and a lot of relationships don't survive, which, yeah, I think if you can survive, 1, moving, and 2, a dream wedding, and then, like, having a kid is like the third one. If you can survive those 3 with no major issues, I think that you're okay. You can work through anything. Fiancé, female 29, insists I, male 30, cut off my parents, struggling with the decision. I'm sensing a pattern here. Lots of parents. We've been in a relationship for 9 years, engaged and living with my fiancé for 5 years. We are financially independent. I work full-time while she works part-time with her father. 5 years is quite a lengthy engagement. Or have you just been living for 5 years? I'm a little confused. How long have you been engaged? Because if you have the money to get married, it makes me kind of wonder, like, why are you waiting? But I don't know if you're just living together or if you're just engaged. But whatever. We're going to keep reading. She wants me to completely cut ties with my parents, believing they manipulate me and are responsible for many of our arguments. She sees 3 main issues. 1, I don't confront them directly. She says I should tell them to their faces and what kind of people they are. In her view, they are full of themselves, always boasting. Example, this phone of mine is really good. Or giving unsolicited advice like, why don't you try doing it this way? She believes they manipulate me. She interprets small things, like my dad saying, are you leaving already? Why not stay 1 more minute? As manipulation, even though I usually respond by saying, no, we're leaving. She still sees it as them influencing me. I didn't immediately choose her when she told me to choose between her and my parents. I hesitated. She sent me a message saying, I will not be a second choice, and I will not be an option that you have to choose immediately without hesitation, no matter what you lose. I have a lot of thoughts, but I'm going to read this whole first update before I jump into them because I want to make sure that what I'm thinking is correct. You guys know that I only skim these. I don't actually read them until we read them together. So, I'm gonna make sure I cover all my bases before I say something that may not be accurate. This wasn't the first time she gave an ultimatum. When my parents invited us to a birthday lunch, she demanded that they stop asking because we will never go to lunch only to visit. My Evie girl came to say hi. Hi, Evie. If you're just listening, my puppy just came in here. Good morning. They were sleeping in with their dad. How are you? I know, I missed you. You want to read the story with me? Yeah? Let's read it. When I asked if I could go alone, she said no. I was to stop going to family lunches altogether. End of discussion. Okay, nope, don't like that. Although she has mentioned cutting ties a few times during heated arguments over the years, she still interacted with my parents, visited them, and even prepared gifts for them. We see them about every 2 to 3 weeks. For over 3 years, we haven't gone to family lunches, even for birthdays or holidays. That's kind of crazy. If a birthday happened to fall on the same week as a holiday, it caused major issues to her to go to my parents sooner than 2 to 3 week periods. These visits were short and uneventful, just sitting and talking. My parents rarely asked for help except twice a year when they physically couldn't mow their lawn due to health issues. Multiple spinal fractures, diabetes, heart attack, and back surgery. Even then, she reluctantly agreed to help. I haven't visited my parents alone since I moved out. So here's a little excerpt on my past and my parents today. When we were still living separately and in our first months of relationship, I once got a call from my dad telling me to put away my camera lenses I had left on the table because we didn't arrange that I would have left them there. I went and did move it away and go back to the house, and she still brings this up as proof of their control over me. I agree this was some kind of control, and because of that, my actions against that further down of relationship were more visible. I also once told her I felt emotionally distant from my parents growing up because of their authoritative style. Maybe this made her see them in a worse light. So, I don't think, like, the camera thing, I don't think that's controlling. I think that the parents have a house and, like, that's their space, and he was just saying, yo, come get these because this is our house. Like, we want it to be clean and we're just gonna put it away. Like, I never told you it was okay. Like, I think that's fine. My mom has a bunch of my boxes because my mom moved a bunch when I was in college, and so she just, like, boxed my stuff up and moved it everywhere with her. Because obviously I couldn't have it in, like, a dorm room, and half the time I didn't even know she was moving. But she still has a couple of my boxes. I'm, like, slowly taking them now that we own a house, and they take up, like, a whole room. And if Josh and I are hanging out one night and she texts me and she's like, "I really need to schedule a time for you to come get these boxes. They're taking up my whole guest room." I'm not gonna be like, "Wow, she's so controlling." No, I'm gonna be like, "Dang, my boxes are taking up your guest room. My bad. I can come at this point." Or, like, there's been times where I've been really, really busy or just not in a good place mentally, and I've said, "Hey, is there any way, like, you can bring them?" Or, "I know I'm gonna be there for Thanksgiving. I'll grab it then. Just remind me so that I can make sure my car is cleaned out." Like, there's ways that you can have that conversation, but I don't think it's controlling at all for them to want things to look a certain way in their own house, and, like, it's not a big deal. Like, she's making a mountain out of a molehill. Yes, they have more control over me in the past, but since moving out, they haven't, or I didn't see that. They never speak badly about her, and they treat me normally. My dad still likes to act like he knows everything, but nothing extreme. Meanwhile, she works with her father every day. They talk over Viber almost daily or every other day. We frequently go on trips with her parents and visit their vacation home every 6 to 8 weeks, staying for 2 to 3 days. I have a great relationship with her parents. That's interesting. Like, genuinely. That, yeah, I don't, Let's keep reading. My compromise and her refusal. I told her if she doesn't want to see my parents anymore, she doesn't have to. I also offered to visit them less, but she refuses any compromise. I must completely cut them off, and she won't discuss alternatives. This argument has been ongoing for 3 months. I think that's 3 months too long. Recently, my dad had a birthday. I visited him alone for an hour and 15 minutes, 3 days later, to show her that even birthdays or holidays aren't a priority for me. That alone was enough for her to want to break up with me. During our relationship, I told her my parents didn't mean much to me. At the time, I truly believed it, not just because I had to, but still, she would probably have left me otherwise. I told her many times as she is my only priority, and I've proven it many times. But because I didn't instantly say, okay, I'll cut them off, she sees it as proof that they matter more than she does. The truth is, I don't care about them as much as before, but not to the extent that I want to erase them completely. Whenever I try to discuss finding a solution, she refuses, saying she won't change her mind. It's either her or my parents. If I even mention that they're my parents, she gets even more frustrated. I've always respected her wishes, and when she still maintains some level of contact with them, I thought she was doing it for me, out of care. But now she wants this for both of us, not just herself. Oh, there is an edit. We'll read that. To add context, after 2 months, she suggests a compromise, only talking to them on the phone for birthdays and sending holiday greetings via SMS. It is a compromise, but honestly, considering the drastic demand, it doesn't feel like a real compromise to me. So reading all that, there's a few things that jump out at me. One, I'm not diagnosing anybody. I'm not a therapist. I just have opinions, okay? Take them or leave them. I have heard and I know that one of the signs that you are with, like, a narcissist is that they try and cut you off from family, and the way that she's like, "You have to cut them off," and, like, even birthdays, like, she's just not compromising, that sends up a big red flag for me. Maybe she has some narcissistic traits. 2, personally, I don't see anything wrong with the parents' behavior. Is it annoying at times? Yeah, but I don't think that it's necessarily, like, to the point where you need to cut them off. I I don't know, a lot of times I think that I side with the partner who wants to, like, distance themselves because there's a lot of things maybe we don't know, like, maybe there's a lot of little things that add up to one big thing. But in this case, I'm on your side, and it's not like if she was willing to compromise and be like, "Hey, I think that we should talk this out," like, and she was like, maybe even coming from a place of concern, like, "I'm concerned for you, I'm concerned for this relationship, you need to go to therapy, let's go to therapy together," like, if she thought that there was truly something wrong, there's a way to approach situations like this, and I think that when you come at it really aggressively and saying, "Hey, you need to cut off your relationship or we're done," that's not coming from a place of care, like, you need to approach it with a, "I care about you, can we talk about something? I don't want you to get upset, I just want you to keep this in mind." Like, if there's something I don't agree with that maybe, like, Josh's parents do, I'm not gonna jump in and be like, "Screw them." I'm gonna be like, "Hey, just so you know, I don't know if this is necessarily, like, normal. I think that maybe you should consider it from this angle, if you haven't already." I tend to approach these situations with the rule of your relationship with your parents is yours to handle, and you kind of make those decisions, and mine is mine. I have a very complex relationship with not only my parents, but my family. So I'm very, like, gracious towards people who may have complex relationships. Like, maybe they didn't necessarily do anything that's considered, like, incredibly harmful, but they were really authoritative. So you don't, like, want to hang out around them all the time, but you still have a, like, deep-rooted trauma where you need to have their approval, so you invite them to big things. Understandable. There's really complex situations, not everything is black and white. So, I think that when it comes to things like no contact, you can suggest it in a loving way after you've really exhausted other options, but I don't think it's fair for you to say he has to go no contact. If they were saying things to you that were, like, incredibly unacceptable, maybe there would be room to be like, "I'm going no contact, and I wish that you would have a conversation with them and stand up for me," because then at that point, it's getting extreme, and it's like, yeah, that is your partner. But, I mean, I don't think that him hesitating when she was like, "It's between me and your parents," is him saying he doesn't love her. I think it's him processing what she's asking because that is a crazy request. So, I think, like, my role is, like, for birthdays or, like, holidays, that is up to Josh. Like, even if he goes to see them, I'm like, "Hey," if he says, "Hey, you wanna go?" I'm like, "Do you want me to go? Would you like some alone time with your family? Is this a situation where, like, you just wanna have some chill time with your dad? Do you want me to be there?" For holidays, I'm always like, "Hey, what is your plan for your family for Thanksgiving? If I could just know by this date, that way I can figure it out with my mom, and, like, we can coordinate to make sure we can go see everybody if you wanna go see them." If he has an argument with somebody, I'm very much like, I'm a listening ear, but at the end of the day, it's your relationship. I'll give you my opinion, but I'm not gonna tell you, "Hey, you need to do this. Hey, you shouldn't do this. Hey, you need to cut this person off." Like, that is your family relationship, family dynamic, and if it's not dangerous, like, if it's not, like, a safety issue and it's genuinely just, like, communicating, then not my circus, not my monkeys. Like, I'm not gonna tell you, you can't have a conversation or you can't have a relationship or, like, I don't think you should see them because that's not my place. Like, it's your family. I will give you advice all day long, but I'm not gonna get upset with you if you don't take it. Does that make sense? I feel like I, like, rambled a lot there, but I just have a lot of opinions about this because it's not very black and white. And yes, there are situations like I think it was Call Me Chris who was talking about when you leave, like when you get married, you are leaving your nuclear family. Maybe it was Charlotte Dobray, but you're leaving your family with like your parents and you're creating a new one with your partner, which I 100% believe like that should be your priority. However, I don't think that you should just like cut your parents off just because your partner thinks they're annoying. Like, I don't know. This partner, it sounds like a red flag, and no argument should last 3 months. Like, your communication skills should be at a point, especially after dating for 9 years, that you either knock it out and you come to some sort of compromise, or you go to therapy. Like, I read that and I was like, why are we just going back and forth for 3 months? How long are you willing to do that? Are you willing to go toe to toe for the rest of your life? Because these are your parents. It's not like you can pick new ones, whether they're annoying or not, or there's more to the story or not. You can't pick new parents. If you stay with this partner, then you're choosing not to pick a new partner. And if she's going to keep pushing you and not give any compromise or not be willing to hear your side or anything, like, that's a long time to be arguing and have a lot of tense situation in the household. Like, you should be living with your best friend. You should be able to squash this. You're not always going to agree, but you should be able to communicate effectively enough that you come to some sort of resolution. Maybe it's like a couple days, maybe it's a week, but it shouldn't be 3 months. Absolutely not. So, top comment. Sorry, Josh just texted me. He's like, "Are you burning something?" "No, sorry, sir. I burnt an Eggo chocolate chip waffle in the microwave." So sorry. The house is not burning down. I was just a little hungry. Okay, we're gonna read the comment. "OP, this is awful. No one has a right to dictate or demand your relationship with others, and I'm afraid the only manipulator here is your fiancé. You should not have to cut ties with anyone on her say-so, and your parents don't sound awful at all. They just sound like parents. Do you have friends or family, or has she cut you off from everyone? OP, your partner is toxic and this relationship is not healthy. She isn't going to change, which she had shown you every time you've offered a compromise. Family is important. You only have one and should treasure every moment with them. Leave your partner." Blood is not always thicker than water, but in this situation, I think that some of the stuff they're saying that she's saying is manipulation is genuinely them being caring, like, and showing that they love you. Like saying, "Oh, you're leaving already?" That's not a manipulation thing. That's a, "Man, I missed you and you're leaving already?" Like, man, I wish we could hang out longer. That's how I took it, at least. Let's read OP's response. "Only mutual friends. She has two of her own friends, no other family. You can probably guess what happened with the distant family members of mine, but I accepted it, which wasn't healthy or the right way. She also doesn't have contact with distant family. That was her decision, but yeah, she hit the limit with this whole parent thing." Well, OP responds to a bunch of comments, but I'm just going to jump to the next update because there's quite a few. Again, it's going to be linked down below if you want to read it. So this is not necessarily a update, but it's another post that they did 8 months later that gives more context. It is titled "How to Introduce Couples Therapy in a Relationship with Strong Emotional Cycles." Look at him being self-aware enough to understand like that's what's going on. "Hello everyone, I'm looking for advice on how to approach couples therapy in my relationship. I want to be respectful of the roles here, so I want to clarify that I'm not diagnosing my partner or claiming she has a disorder. What I can say is that some of the patterns in our relationship have been very intense, and some of them resemble what people describe in this community." Where are they posting? Hold on. They posted this in BPD Loved Ones, just for added context. "I'm not here to label or blame. I love my partner deeply and I know she struggles emotionally. I've started individual therapy to work on my part and to understand how to support our relationship better. My therapist suggested that couples therapy or at least a proper clinical evaluation for her could help us both. But she's very hesitant about it, mostly because she has a deep fear of trusting and opening up and letting someone new into her emotional world. I want to respect that, but at the same time, it feels like we keep hitting the same wall. She currently sees a non-clinical counselor, but there's no structured treatment or assessment. Whenever we hit deeper conflicts, we get stuck in cycles that are extremely hard for both of us. Some of the reoccurring issues involve strong fears, very high emotional reactions, and expectations that I genuinely try to meet but sometimes can't without losing myself. I'm not judging her, I simply want to understand how others have navigated this and what has helped. Any experience or advice would mean a lot. Thank you." So I do want to say, I feel like in today's day and age, we are so quick to diagnose people with buzzwords that we hear that are actual diagnoses, like BPD, narcissism, OCD. Ooh, our OCD drives me crazy because I actually have OCD, and a lot of times when people are like, "I'm so OCD," they have no idea what that even means. Like, it's so misunderstood. Okay, side rant. But I would never diagnose someone without having them go to someone who can diagnose them professionally. Because a lot of people, like, for myself, I grew up in a very religious upbringing. My family themselves weren't, but, like, my school was. I went to a Southern Baptist school. Um, my parents were very, like, success revolved around, like, bestie, you need to be successful. You're, like, a child prodigy. Like, you're gonna go places. And so any flaws, which mental health was considered a flaw, like any sort of mental illness, was not accepted, as well as mental health was like in the church, it was very much like pray away the mental illness. Like, mental illness isn't real. You just have to pray for it and God will take it away, which not every church is like that. I just happened to go to a very extreme one. So that being said, I know for me, I didn't start going to therapy for my OCD until I was 26. And I didn't get diagnosed with ADHD until I was 22. Because although I was diagnosed with anxiety and depression, I was made to feel like that's a bad thing. And it's not something I was born with, but like something that a flaw, like something that's wrong with me, instead of viewing it as just an illness that I just happen to have. Like, it's a chemical imbalance that can be fixed with therapy and medication. So all that to say, if you are to say to someone, hey, I think you have VPD, and their mindset of mental illness is that it's a very, very negative thing, you could be scaring them off from getting help. So you have to be really careful with diagnosing someone and kind of just like spooking them so that they won't go get the help they need. That's why I'm kind of like, maybe don't approach this with my therapist said you might have this, or my therapist said. I think that it's more important to get her in with someone and go at it from like that angle very gently, just because we all have different experiences and that may not be the case. She may not have an opinion on mental illness and whether it's like negative or positive, but more often than not, I feel like people view it as something wrong with you and like a negative thing, and like, oh, if you have like a mental illness or you're neurodivergent, like you're an outcast. Like, I feel like that's a very common thing that people say, and it's like there are fully functioning people who have plenty of mental disorders. Doesn't make you like wrong. I think that getting help actually is courageous and a brave thing, and I think that you're doing more for yourself than a lot of people are who like don't have mental issues. So just be careful with diagnosing. There's a way to go about bringing up the idea of getting help, and I think that it can come across, whether you mean for it to be or not, very accusatory if people will view it negatively. So that's my thoughts. There is another one from BPD loved ones that we will also read that is over 2.5 months after that first one, and it's, I'd really appreciate hearing other people's experiences. For those who have or had a partner with BPD, how did they react when you lost a parent or someone very close to you? Especially in situations where you were supporting your parent, for example, staying for a few days with your mom or dad after their spouse died, helping with arrangements, being physically present. Were they supportive, distant, angry, jealous, overwhelmed? I'm just trying to understand patterns and experiences. Oh no. I hope that he didn't lose one of his parents. That'd be so sad. Like, just imagine the regret of like, I cut these people off for someone. And okay. So here's an update that is 3 months later from the BPD post and 13 months after the original one. 1 year later. A year ago, we briefly broke up and I moved out for a week. My main goal was to show her that this wasn't the right way to solve our problems. There was no real compromise. She insisted that I either cut off my relationship with my parents or we would break up. She said that if I showed her she was my main priority, I could occasionally see my parents and we could move forward. Her father got involved and I asked him for advice. After speaking with her, he suggested that I temporarily hide my contact with my parents so she could see that our relationship was my priority. Hey, terrible idea. Bad idea. Don't ever hide anything from your partner, because when they inevitably find out, because don't forget, women are more observant and better investigators than the FBI, they will assume that you're hiding other things. So just don't ever do that. Yeah? Okay. Based on that, I came back. I believe that if I showed her clearly enough that she was my priority, even though I already felt she was, things would improve. During that time, I tried to maintain the relationship and reflect on possible issues with myself and my parents. This was around May. For her, I agreed not to see my parents. However, I secretly called them once every week or two and visited them every third week. I felt ashamed for lying, but in hindsight, I'm glad I did, and you'll see why. It sounds like your parents are like the other woman, and I'm very interested to see how you're glad about this, but let's see. From her perspective, my main responsibility was to push my parents aside so she could feel that I cared about her feelings, even if I didn't fully understand or agree with them. At the same time, I started individual therapy. However, because my first therapist was a woman, I had to cancel. She couldn't tolerate any woman around me, regardless of age. Red flag. I then asked her multiple times if we could go to couples therapy, but she insisted we didn't need it because we were fine. After 3 to 4 months, I kept asking where we stood on this issue and how we could resolve it. The relationship seemed better because she believed I wasn't in contact with my parents, but in reality, I was speaking to them more, not less. By August, nothing had changed. Whenever I tried to discuss a solution or asked if I could see my parents, I could no longer lie. She repeatedly said I could see them only once per year, which I couldn't accept. Yeah, bestie, there's more than one holiday a year where it's like you go see your parents. Like, a lot of people do Thanksgiving and Christmas. Let's not forget, like, Easter, if you celebrate that. Some people do July 4th. Some people do birthdays, Father's Day, Mother's Day. That's just holidays. One day, I reached my limit. I asked again, and she told me that if I didn't agree, I could leave. So I did. But my feelings for her didn't just disappear. I moved into an apartment, and we didn't speak for a month. During that time, I went back to therapy with the same female therapist to understand myself, what I was doing wrong, what was wrong with my family dynamics, and why nothing I ever did seemed to be enough for her. Bestie, those are all things that she has instilled in you. Those are not things that are true. Just because she said them doesn't mean they are true. After a month, we started talking again. I tried to understand her perspective better, but her reasons remained the same. My parents were, quote unquote, too cocky, they influenced me too much, and they complained a lot, especially about my father's health. I tried to find a reasonable compromise, for example, that I could see them without involving her at all. She wouldn't need to attend birthdays or even funeral when time comes if she didn't want to. Eventually, in November, her final compromise was that I could see them 6 times per year for 30 minutes, talk to them on birthdays or holidays, and once per month, otherwise, even though they lived 20 minutes away. 6 times a year for 30 minutes, but then once per month. Math ain't math unless I'm reading this wrong or understanding this wrong. I don't like this. I don't like how controlling this is. I couldn't accept that. My therapist also pointed out that these demands were unusually strict. From a therapeutic perspective, my relationship with my parents seemed normal. Through therapy, I also realized I had issues with boundaries. I often felt guilty saying no, although I had been prioritizing my girlfriend for years, so every time was no if she didn't agree on it. During therapy, the topic of borderline personality disorder came up, not as a diagnosis, but as a possible explanation for some behaviors. This was the first time I have heard of it. I researched it extensively in books, videos, podcasts, and realized that regardless of whether she had it or not, she experienced emotions very differently from me. We started communicating more again. She asked me to switch therapists because mine was a woman, so I changed to a male therapist. I focused on understanding her emotional experience as much as possible. It sounds like your therapy is all about her. Like, you are going to therapy asking about her and then trying to relay that information to her because she refuses to get help, which is not great either. In December, I told her I would visit my parents for my birthday. We didn't speak for a week afterward. The more we talked, the fewer concrete arguments she had, as she mostly repeated that she simply didn't feel okay when I had contact with them. I told her we couldn't continue like this and that we needed couples therapy. In January, we started. After 6 sessions, nothing changed. When the therapist asked how she felt when I contacted my parents, she said it felt like, quote unquote, a heavy rock in her body, that she hated me most when I did it and loved me most when I didn't. Hate is a strong word. She shouldn't hate you at all. Just gonna say that. During that time, I still secretly visited my parents, helping them with practical things, spending quality time, and having honest conversations without fear. We talked about boundaries, my fears of saying no, and what could improve our relationship. We're still separated, but trying to work things out. Then, one normal day in February, my mother called early in the morning. Son, paramedics are resuscitating your father. Please come home. I'm so sorry. I called my girlfriend. She said, go if it's an emergency. You shouldn't have even had to call her before you left. You should have just gotten in the car and gone. Like, she shouldn't have that hold over you. I drove there. My mind was racing all over. Sadly, my father passed away. I told her the news and returned briefly to our apartment. She offered help, and we talked for 2 hours. Then I went back to my mother and grandmother, whom my girlfriend also didn't accept. After an hour, she messaged me. Are you still there? I said yes, that I would probably stay with my mom that night. Her response was cold at first, but soon turned to anger. I can't believe you'd rather be with your mom than with me. You need your mommy. Oh my, I'm gonna throw up, like, on behalf of how disgusting that is. Like, what the frick? That moment changed something in me. I realized that no matter what I did, it would never be enough. Even in a situation like death, empathy only lasted until her feelings were triggered. I didn't invite her to the funeral, although her mother came secretly. I tried to explain things to her parents and even suggested a book to help them understand her emotional responses. After a year's struggle, I lost both my father and my relationship. But despite everything, I feel stronger than ever. It's still hard sometimes, but I don't regret lying for contact with my parents. Okay, I understand that. I still think you should have just dumped her and kept the parents and didn't lie to anybody, but I understand more now why you were okay with lying about that. That time allowed me to build a deeper relationship with them, especially now with my mother. To anyone in a similar situation, take care of yourself and your loved ones. Understand that people can experience emotions differently, and sometimes, even when there is love, letting go is the healthiest choice. So I will read one top comment. It's hopefully you cut contact with her after you broke up. She was controlling. Do not ever accept a partner who tries to stop you from seeing your own family. And OOP said, I did cut with her. Definitely, I won't accept this anymore. And this is one of the reasons why I wrote an update to maybe clear someone's eyes if it is in the same position. That was a heavy ending. I'm sorry. I didn't mean for these to be so heavy, but I do think these are conversations that we need to be having because, like, if you do have a partner who's this way, maybe hearing it will help. Maybe if you're single but you're looking for a forever partner, these are things to consider. If you just want entertainment, I think that these are stories that you definitely could listen to. They could cure your boredom and you can learn something from them. That being said, I think that's all we have time for today. So definitely let me know if you want to hear more fiance marriage stories, or stories of any kind. Let me know what topics you want me to cover. I upload every single Sunday and Wednesday. If you have a second, please, please, please don't forget to like. If you're on YouTube, you can hype for the first week that a video is out. It would mean the absolute world to me. Again, it's free. Doesn't take like any time at all, and it pushes my video so that more people can see it and we can grow our fun community of besties. So that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed. I will catch you guys in my next podcast episode, but have a great rest of your day, week, whatever time it is. Good night, good evening, good morning, and yeah, I'll catch you guys later. Bye.